If you're a small business that's eligible for federally funded programs like SBIR or STTR, this is the most important update you're going to hear all year. America's billion-dollar seed fund had lapsed for over 6 months. No new awards, tons of companies in a holding pattern. But that's all changed. The programs have been reauthorized through 2031, but it's not just a rubber stamp. There's some significant changes that companies need to plan for. In the next few minutes, we'll break down what's changed, what it actually means for your company, and what to do right now. It's really exciting. Let's dive in.
If your company runs on innovation, if you're building something new, testing something uncertain, pushing into territory no one's mapped yet, then the federal government has a program designed specifically to fund that work. It's called SBIR and STTR. And after a turbulent 6 months, those programs are back. But they came back different. This is what changed, what it means for small businesses, and what you should be thinking about right now. First, some context for anyone who's newer to these programs. SBIR stands for Small Business Innovation Research. STTR stands for Small Business Technology Transfer. Together, they represent the largest source of early-stage, non-dilutive federal R&D funding available to small businesses in the United States. Non-dilutive means you don't give up equity. You're not taking on investors. You're receiving a federal award to fund your research, and you keep ownership of what you build. These programs are administered across more than 11 federal agencies: the Department of Defense, the National Institutes of Health, the National Science Foundation, NASA, the Department of Energy, and others, and they collectively distribute over $4 billion in awards every year. For small businesses doing serious R&D, this is one of the most important funding mechanisms in existence. So here's what happened. The authorization for SBIR and STTR expired on September 30th, 2025. Congress had been debating reforms and couldn't agree on the terms quickly enough. The result was a 6-month lapse, no new solicitations, no new awards, agencies in a holding pattern, and thousands of small businesses waiting with no clear timeline for when things would restart. That lapse ended on April 13, 2026, when President Trump signed S-3971, the Small Business Innovation and Economic Security Act, into law. The bill had passed the Senate unanimously and cleared the House with a 345-41 vote. The programs are back, but as we'll walk through now, they came back with meaningful changes attached. S-3971 reauthorizes SBIR and STTR through September 30th, 2031. A 5.5-year runway that gives small businesses planning certainty for the first time since 2022. But this isn't just a procedural extension. Congress used this reauthorization to introduce the most significant structural reforms the programs have seen in years. The name of the bill itself signals that shift by calling it the Small Business Innovation and Economic Security Act. Congress is explicitly tying innovation funding to national security priorities. That framing shapes almost every major change in the law. Let's go through them one by one. The first and arguably most exciting change is the creation of Strategic Breakthrough Awards. This is an entirely new category of Phase 2 funding, and the numbers are dramatically different from what most SBIR recipients are used to. Typical Phase 2 awards run somewhere between $600,000 and $2.8 million over 2 years. Strategic Breakthrough Awards go up to $30 million over 4 years. That's a completely different scale of investment. One designed to help the most promising technologies cross what people in the industry call the valley of death, the gap between early-stage R&D and full commercialization. To qualify, your company needs at least one prior Phase 2 award. You'll also need to provide 100% matching funds from private capital or non-SBIR governance sources. These awards are only available at agencies with over $100 million in annual SBIR obligations, so primarily DoD, NIH, and NSF, and they come with serious commitment requirements from both the agency and the applicant. If you've been in the SBIR ecosystem for a while and you have a technology that's proven itself but needs a bigger runway, this is worth paying very close attention to. The second major change is the expansion of national security screening. This is where the economic security part of the bill's name really shows up. Agencies are now required to conduct more thorough due diligence on applicants before making an award, specifically looking for connections to what the law calls countries of concern. What does that mean in practice? Agencies will examine whether you, your owners, or your key personnel have any foreign affiliations with entities in those countries, investment ties, technology licensing arrangements, joint venture relationships, or other business relationships that connect your company to foreign interests. This isn't entirely new. The 2022 Reauthorization introduced some foreign due diligence requirements, but S3971 expands the scope significantly. If your company has any international relationships, even indirect ones, you should be reviewing them carefully before your next application. The review happens before an award is made, and a finding can stop the process entirely. The third change is one that will affect how experienced SBIR companies approach their pipelines starting in fiscal year 2027. S3971 requires each agency to set limits on how many Phase 1 and Phase 2 proposals a single firm can submit per year. This is the law's response to the so-called SBIR mill problem. It's criticism that some companies win SBIR awards repeatedly without ever commercializing the technology. The specifics of how those limits work will vary by agency. Each one gets to set its own cap, and they can structure it on a per company, per solicitation, or per topic basis. Agencies can also waive the cap for urgent, mission-critical topics, but only for up to 5% of their topics in any fiscal year. The key date to know: agencies must publish their proposal limits at least 90 days before the start of fiscal year 2027, which means that guidance should be coming out later this year. If you're a high-volume SBIR applicant, you need to start thinking strategically about which opportunities you prioritize. The fourth change is actually an opportunity created by the lapse itself, because agencies couldn't issue new awards for 6 months. A significant amount of FY 2026 SBIR and STTR funding went unspent. S3971 allows agencies to carry that money over into fiscal year 2027. What that means practically is that there's more funding in the pipeline right now than you'd see in a typical year. Agencies are restarting their programs and working to deploy those funds. The Department of Defense has already made new topics live. Other agencies have sent notifications signaling they're ready to restart. For companies that are prepared to apply, this is a window. Agencies are motivated to get money out the door, and the available pool is larger than usual. So what does all of this mean for your company specifically? It depends on where you are in the SBIR life cycle. If you're a first-time applicant, someone who's been curious about these programs but hasn't pulled the trigger, now is actually a strong time to engage. Agencies are restarting, funding is available, and the proposal limits that will start in 2027 haven't kicked in yet. You have a clear window. If you're an experienced SBIR company with a solid track record, your immediate priority should be reviewing your foreign relationships and making sure your security documentation is in order. The enhanced due diligence requirements are not going away, and a poorly prepared application could slow things down significantly. And if you're a growth stage company that has already won a Phase 2 award and is sitting on a technology with real commercial potential, the Strategic Breakthrough Award was designed for you. $30 million, 4 years, and a direct bridge to commercialization. It's worth a serious look. SBIR and STTR have funded over $70 billion in small business-led R&D since the programs launched. They've produced technologies that ended up in defense systems, medical treatments, clean energy infrastructure, and commercial markets. The 2026 reauthorization keeps those programs alive and adds new tools, but it also adds new requirements. Navigating the new landscape takes preparation. TaxTaker works with companies to understand federal R&D programs, identify the right funding opportunities, and make sure every eligible dollar gets captured. If you're not sure how the SBIR or STTR changes apply to your situation, let's find time to dive in.
So as you can see, whether you're a first-time applicant or you've been winning these SBIR awards for years, the landscape has shifted. The new security requirements are real, but the strategic breakthrough opportunity is massive if you're ready for it.